Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Baba Girivardhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Yashodananda Rajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajana Ramunda Tira Naram chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Mukam Kroti Vachalam Bhangam Lingaya Tegirim Jakripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Iswaram. Reading from the second canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 10. Srimad Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Text number 33 today. It's on the board. Please repeat. Etad Bhagavato Rupam Suplam Te Vyahitam Maya Mahi Adivis Chavarane Astabir Bahir Avritam Etad Bhagavato Rupam Suklam Te Vyahitam Maya Mahi Adibis Charavarane Astabir Bahir Avritam Etad Bhagavato Rupam Suklam Te Vyahitam Maya Mahi Adibis Chavarane Astabir Bahir Avritam
Remember to sing at the sun. We're in the light. Etad Bhagavato Rupam Sulam Te Vyaritam Maya
Suklam Te Vyahitam Maya
Maya Divis Chavar Varanai
Maya Adibis Chavarane
Ashtabir Bahirabritam
Astabir Bahir Avritam
Etad Bhagavato Rupam
Etad Bhagavato Rupam
Stulam Te Vyahritam Maya
Sulam Te Vyahitam Maya
Mahi Adivi Chavaranair
Mahi Adibis Chavarane
Ashtabir Bahiravratam
Astabir Bahir Avritam
Etad Bhagavato Rupam
Etad Bhagavato Rupam Sulam Te Vyahitam Maya Mahi Adibis Chavarane Astabir Bahir Avritam Etad Bhagavato Rupam Suklam Te Vyahitam Maya Mahi Adibis Chavarane Astabir Bahir Avritam Etad Bhagavato Rupam Sulam Te Vyahitam Maya Mahi Adibis Chavarane Astabir Bahir Avritam Etai Bhagavato Rupam Stulam Te Vyaitam Maya Mahi Adidis Chavarne Askavir Vahi Avitam Etai Bhagavato Rupam Stulam Te Vyaitam Maya Mahi Adidis Chavarne Askavir Vahi Avitam. How do they have Vyahitam spelled on the board? Is it V-Y-A accented, H, all with the dot under, T-A-M?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, word for word. Etat, all these. Bhagavata, of the personality of Godhead. Rupam, from. Stulam, gross. Te, unto you. Vyahitam, explain. Maya, by me. Mahi, the planets. Adibi, and so on. Cha, unlimitedly. Avaranai, by covering. Astibi, by eight. Bahi, external. Avritam, covered. Srila Prabhupada's translation. Please repeat. Thus by all this, the external feature of the personality of Godhead is covered by gross forms, such as those of the planets, which were explained to you by me. Thus, by all this, the external feature of the personality of Godhead is covered by gross forms, such as those of the planets, which were explained to you by me. This is still Srila Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, describing this Hirata Rupa. So Srila Prabhupada's divine purport is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 4. The separated material energy of the personality of Godhead is covered by 8 kinds of material coverings: earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All these are emanations from the personality of Godhead as His external energy. These coverings are just like the covering of clouds for the sun. The cloud is a creation of the sun. Yet it actually covers the eyes so that no one can see the sun. The sun cannot be covered by the clouds. The cloud can, at utmost, extend a few hundreds of miles in the sky. But the sun is far greater than millions of miles. So a 100-mile covering is not competent to cover millions of miles. Therefore, one of the various energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot, of course, cover the Lord. But these coverings are created by Him to cover the eyes of the conditioned souls who want to lord it over the material nature. Actually, the conditioned souls or covered by the illusory creative cloud of matter. And the Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to their eyes, because they have no eyes of transcendental vision, and because they cannot see the personality of Godhead, they therefore deny the existence of the Lord in the transcendental form of the Lord. The covering of the gigantic material feature is accepted by such men with a poor fund of knowledge. And how this is so is explained in the following verses, or the following verse. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 33rd sloka, 2nd canto, 10th chapter. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Srila Prabhupada ki. I offer my obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who has opened my eyes, although they were certainly shut by the darkness of ignorance. When will Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within the material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give us shelter under his lotus feet? Srila Prabhupada ki. So it's by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his disciples, such as Rupa Goswami, down the parampara to our beloved Srila Prabhupada and his disciples, that we can get a glimpse of Godhead beyond the coverings. Somehow or other, having become contaminated or expressing desire for independence, which is a natural feature of the soul. Krishna is fully independent, so is his little parts and parcels. We have some independent tendency there. But when it becomes misused to strike out on our own and be fully independent, then that is called Maya. There's really no possibility of it, but the Lord arranges such an illusion for the soul to experience himself like that. And he enters into a competition with unlimited other souls with the same desire. So the Lord has to make an arrangement of Maya, of illusion, so that they can all experience their independence, but at the same time are kept within an order, so that there's not just some chaotic phantasmagoria or simply like chaos, where somehow or other these souls are trying to enjoy some independence from Krishna. How can they find that? It doesn't exist unless Krishna arranges something and steps back from it and doesn't allow himself to be revealed. So that is called the material creation. So to do this, as we've heard in previous classes, Krishna expands his material energy, he enters into it, and from that Purusha avatar, then everything comes about. Krishna expands unlimited universes, because there are unlimited jivas that need their desires fulfilled. So there has to be all these unlimited scenarios. This is the power of the personality of Godhead. Just dealing with one of his little bitty energies. He has unlimited energies. This is just one. this external material energy. So it is so great that he emanates unlimited universes, practically speaking, and then expands into each of them and begins what we call the material creation. Although it begins with the first Purusha, that first Purusha expands as the Garbhodakshi Vishnu into each universe. And from him sprouts Brahma. As we learned in hearing about this universal form, from the navel, comes the creation. So Brahma, who is a never Jivatma, but Jivatma who takes the role of a type of avatar to deal with the creation. He's actually the chief engineer of the universe. Brahma. He's assumed that post after many, many, many lives. They say it takes 100 lives of performance of perfect Varna and ashram in order to achieve the post of a Brahma. So if one is able to do that, then sometime when the Lord is creating, they'll get the post of a Brahma in some universe. Brahma is, the only begotten son of Garbhodakshi Vishnu. So, although Vishnu has a son from Garbhodakshi Vishnu, without a mother, sprouts the lotus stem upon which Brahma is born. Then Brahma begins the creation. After performing tapasya and Krishna revealing himself, he becomes empowered with the ability to take charge of this mode of passion, which all this material energy is composed of what we know in English is the three modes of material nature. In Sanskrit they say sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic modes of nature. That comprises the qualities of Krishna's this material energy. So everything is situated within these qualities. The fascinating thing of this material energy is that each individual soul is practically covered also by a universe. So although the Lord is breathing out these universes and he's entering into these universes, each of these universes is complete. And Haridas, is a saintly person. He's very sensitive. He can understand these people who have misunderstood. So he says, please, 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 you've misunderstood me. Don't take my blessing like that. That blessing meant that now you are a little bit Krishna conscious. So stay like that. Know for sure you will be released real soon. But don't go back to your materialistic ways. Become Krishna conscious this time. That is my blessing. So that's the power of coming in contact with a saintly person. Because the saintly person can teach us we're not this body. We're the spirit soul inside. And human life is meant for freeing the soul from this material existence. It doesn't mean that we perform the yoga system of sitting down and raising our Atma, self, on the different chakras in the body and leaving through the soft baby spot at the top of the head. We don't spend our life doing that like in previous years. They would practice that for at least 10,000 years to attain perfection, if not longer. But they had lifespans of 100,000 years. But it would take at least 10,000 years to perfect that. So in this day and age, we're given a different system of self-realization, of bhakti yoga. And it encompasses the chanting of japa. So what they would do in previous ages to free the soul, we do by the soft chanting of Krishna's holy name and the performance of Sankirtan, congregational chanting in public for the welfare of the whole world. So Srila Prabhupada came to the Western world uninvited. He had a sponsor because he had to get a visa. You can't travel. We all know that. You can't go from one country to the next, and unless there's some diplomatic relationship, just like Americans can go to England, without a visa. I think for like 3 months or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but you don't need a visa. America doesn't need a visa to go to England. You can just buy a ticket and go and show your passport. You don't need a visa. But in most countries, you need visas. So, Srila Prabhupada needed a visa to get here. And to do that, he had to have some sponsor in America. Because he couldn't go just as a tourist with a bunch of money. They let tourists go, but then they look and see how much money you got. And they look to see if you're really going to come back. If they see that, that you're just a single guy or lady, and, your family's poor, and there's nothing to come back to because, you're just a young person, and your family doesn't possess any property, you don't have anything, you're not a student, and you claim you're going as a tourist. They just don't believe you. They just deny the visa. Because, practically speaking, 99% of the people won't go back. So Srila Prabhupada, he needed a sponsor because he's a sannyasi, he's a renunciate. He also doesn't have any money. He doesn't have any property. Whatever he had, he left with the family. Now he's Bhaktivedanta Swami. What property does he have? He produces Back to Godhead magazine and he writes Srimad Bhagavatam. But look at his bank account. It doesn't have anything in it because he spent it all to do that. He's just an old renunciate. So why does he want to come to America? I don't think he had a tourist visa. I'm not exactly sure what kind of visa he had. It may have been some type of cultural visa. But in any case, he had a sponsor. So that sponsor was very fortunate that he sponsored Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada came to America and somehow ever was able to renew his visa and stay here longer and teach Krishna consciousness to people. But it all begun with people understanding I'm not the body. Otherwise, how can we ever, accept anything about Krishna? We can't understand Krishna, the personality of God. Especially to a Western or any person with Western education, it all sounds like mythology. One has to understand, first of all, I am not the body. And that's something that must be realized. It takes intense academic studying to understand that even, theoretically. But it's just theoretical. It won't ultimately be satisfying unless it's realized. So for that to become realized requires that we put into practice the different lessons we learn along with theoretically understanding that. If I'm the little bitty soul, then what is the little bitty soul supposed to be doing? He's not supposed to be just trying to enjoy his body. That's sense gratification. What good does that do to become more and more habituated to thinking I'm the body, which means just enjoying the body? I like to eat so much. I know Hindu people who grew up, whose parents were all vegetarian, would never eat meat. They grew up in American culture, and they ate crawfish. Along with a number of other things that Americans do. Because the peer pressure was just too much. Bobby Jindal, the governor of Louisiana, his parents are from Brahmana family. I think they're still vegetarian. Bobby Jindal converted to a Catholic and would eat at McDonald's. Just to have a political post. Some of his biggest donors were Hindus, but he gave up his spiritual culture or his religious culture for his political culture. He was the governor of Louisiana like about 6 years ago. For 2 terms. And he's still a credible member of the Republican Party of the United States of America. So it's very difficult to realize I'm not this body if I'm completely immersed in sense gratification. So the human life, says Rishabhadev, is meant for austerity. That's the way we understand we're not this body. One has to learn to be austere. So therefore, along with chanting Hare Krishna, Prabhupada told his followers, you can't eat meat, fish, or eggs. You can't drink intoxicants, including even tea or coffee, because it's got caffeine in it and it's addictive. I mean, there's so many people, they can't do anything in the morning until they get their coffee because they need to put that caffeine into the body because it's an addictive substance. When they want to stay awake at night, they just take them. Just like they got all these things on the shelf, don't they? You don't have to get coffee anymore. You can get these things that's got 5 times the amount of caffeine in coffee. And you drink that, and naturally it keeps you awake. But the thing is, it's addicting. Just like nicotine in cigarettes. It's addicting. Once you smoke it, your body becomes addicted to it. You go through withdrawals if you don't have it. So Prabhupada said, no intoxication, including even tea and coffee. No gambling. It's also addictive to try to make money fast. I don't have to work for it. I can, take this $100 I got and put it in this slot machine and I may get 5,000. I may hit the jackpot and get 50,000. They've created such a great industry for it that they call it gaming. They don't even call it gambling, they call it gaming. And every adult should know how to budget into their budget, their money. They should be able to budget that I have $200 this month to game with. And they probably, I don't know, I'd have to ask Sorority or somebody else. They got all this gaming just online now. You don't have to go to the casino. You can do it online. Just go online, Just like you don't have to go get a Playboy magazine to look at pornography. You can just do it online. There's more pornography online than there are good things. It's the dark side of the internet. I mean, parents, they purchase different filters so that when their children use the computers, they can't go to pornography sites because it's so prominent. So, these things, take away from our Krishna consciousness. They take away from it. Human life is meant for austerity. No gambling, no intoxication, no meat eating, and no illicit sex. Means no pornography. As the Upanishad says, the killer of the soul, whoever he may be. That may mean he's so-and-so Maharaj. The killer of the soul, whomever he may be, enters into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. Because, to kill the soul is not meant for a human being. A human being is meant for liberating the soul, not for killing the soul. If we take our soul and become like a tiger again, then we've killed the soul because we're going to become like a tiger again. I mean, if we act like a tiger again, we're going to become a tiger. That's the science of Krishna. That the soul is practicing in this body. And according to his deeds, he's going to take another body. So Prabhupada would say, at least you should go up. Don't go down. Don't kill yourself. At least go up. You know, you wanted to be something in the world, John. So give a life to Krishna and you can be whatever you want. You can get the best karma. But it's still fruitive. It doesn't free the soul. Does it free the soul to become an Indra? Do you know the problems Indra's got? You think Donald Trump's got problems? Face the problems Indra has. There's always the chance of becoming puffed up. You may offend your guru. You may even offend Krishna. You may make so many mistakes because you're the king of heaven. I had a friend who was the president of the parish next to New Orleans, where all the white people live. Because New Orleans is 70% African American. The next parish they're less because there's a natural racism. So the whites all live together. So my friend was president of that parish for 30 years. From the time he was out of college, he was a politician. He was the president, not the president, he was the mayor of the town I was born in, where the New Orleans airport is. So he became a little arrogant, and he thought he could kind of get away with doing what he wanted to do. So, I mean, they do it all the time, politicians. You know, they have their cronies or people that they give jobs to because they're friends who will support them. They may not be the best qualified, but they're their friend or their relative. So he was divorced from his wife, whom he had children with. And you know, he's like, you know, in his late 50s now. And so he's having, you know, a relationship with this younger woman. And he gives her a job that she's completely unqualified for. And worse than that, the woman abuses the job. She doesn't even come to work half the time. And he completely overlooks it. But like every politician, including Indra, he has his enemies. And they all take note of this and contact the federal government. And they start to look into his life. And they say, and they're able to put together some pieces of a puzzle where there's this ever rich guy who's been giving him money for his political elections. And that guy's been getting contracts to do work. So they, I don't know if they don't call it an arrest, they call it something else. They filed charges against him for misuse of his political office. And he ends up in jail for 4 years. Federal penitentiary. From, you know, the president of the parish, the mayor of the city, to a common criminal. He's a very intelligent guy. You know, I mean, he has a law degree. He's always had good karma. His father was a lawyer. He's had good karma in the sense that he always, you know, he always had influence, that type of shakti. You know, good looking, good speaker, very great orator, and and singer. So, you know, in prison, when the only way he made it to prison, through prison, was taking shelter of God. I would write him often, but he never became Krishna conscious. But he did become like God conscious and had faith in the religion he was born in. So he gets out of prison, and now he runs a ministry to help prisoners get through. And he wrote a book, How to Survive Federal Prison. So, you know, it doesn't matter who we are. You know, karma pala. When it's your time, your karma is coming. And there's no escaping it. Everyone, you know, has to pay the price of karma. And that's the law of nature. That's the law of material nature. So the only way to transcend it is to be Krishna conscious. So we give our life to Krishna. We don't have to be something in the material world. We can understand our Sanatan Dharma rather than just the Dharma in this world. And Sanatan Dharma is living with Krishna again in the spiritual world. Our relationship with Krishna. I mean, maybe, we should be able to realize that we were never fully independent here. So why should we worry about not being fully independent in the spiritual world? Yes, we're just Krishna's devotee. We love serving Krishna. But whatever Krishna wants, we're available for. The gopis will give anything to Krishna, whatever he wants. They don't care. Whatever he wants. They'll offend him by putting their feet on his head. That's like offensive. Don't put your feet on people's head. But the gopis will do that if Krishna says he wants it. Nobody else will. I mean, even Prahlad Maharaj won't do it. No, my Lord, I can't put my feet on your head. He wouldn't think about doing something like that. What if we said, put your feet on the deity's head? Would you do something like that? No. But the gopis, when Krishna says, I need your feet on my head, I got a headache, the only thing that'll take it away is the dust from your feet. The gopis are ready to do it. They don't care if they'll go to hell for doing it. But we can't understand that type of devotion. Just like the devotee of Lord Ram. No one could understand. She wouldn't offer Ram fruit unless she tasted it. You don't do that. You can't be in the kitchen. They'll relieve you of your Brahminical duty if they see you tasting the fruit before you offer it. You can't do that. It's against the rules. It's against all Brahminical rules. You don't eat the fruit before you offer it to Krishna. You don't think even about eating it. You don't taste it. You don't smell it. You offer it to Krishna. You wash it. You cut it. You peel it. You make it nice visual presentation, and you offer it to Krishna without having lusted over it. But this woman would taste it to see if it was sweet enough for Lord Ram. And Lord Ram would eat it. Even Lakshman didn't understand. So we can't imitate these things. That's on a platform of spontaneous devotion. Just like Srila Prabhupada said, we can't worship Radha and Krishna because Radha and Krishna is spontaneous devotion. One has to be on another platform. Our worship, because everything is in Krishna, including all his Vishnu forms, so therefore our worship becomes the worship of Lakshmi Narayan. It has to be performed with opulence, regulation, strict rules and regulations, just like in a hospital. Break the rule. Even if you're a doctor, like we had one devotee here, Dr. Gopinath. So Dr. Gopinath was accused of breaking the rule. And he lost his position. He was in his residency as a cancer doctor. It was so devastating because he didn't actually break the rule. He was being cheated by the person in charge of him because the person in charge of him didn't like him. And that may sound like, sometimes people, they blame that this person is just prejudiced. They try to say things like that. But the reality of it, this is the story as Dr. Gopinath told it to me. And I heard it firsthand as it was going on. So, he would just like spontaneously tell me what was happening in his life. That this was happening, that was happening. So this guy didn't like him because he was gay. This doctor was gay, and Dr. Gopinath saw it. He didn't know why, but he thought maybe he epitomized something different to him that make it where somehow ever he just had it out for Dr. Gopinath. So this guy filed a report that was basically false, but very hard for Dr. Gopinath to appeal it and challenge it. He was his superior. So what he did was he accepted it, and he just changed his profession, not his profession, but his type of doctor he was going to be. And he just went and became a general doctor. Doctor practiced family medicine. And today, he's scientifically involved in research to prove about how the chanting of the Maha Mantra can relieve people from stress and various other material anxieties. He does that. That's like his first job, but he's a family physician. Right now he's putting out an app to help people with their health. Him and a bunch of other professional devotees in the field of medicine. So anyway, what happened was, a month later, Dr. Gopinath just basically quits. And he goes to Denver and gets a job immediately as a family physician because they need doctors so bad. But there's a big difference in the pay between a cancer doctor and a family physician. Family physicians also have to work very hard. So about a month later, this doctor who filed this report against Dr. Gopinath, he was murdered. Nobody knows why. I don't even know if they ever caught the murderer, but he was murdered in the New Orleans French Quarter. And I'm not 100% sure, it may have been in a hotel. So it's very dangerous to offend devotees, but the human form of life is meant for understanding the soul and not thinking with the body. And we're so immersed in thinking with the body, we create friends and enemies. Whereas when we're thinking with the soul, that means we have to not only see our own self, but we have to see the soul of others as well. Therefore, we don't want to eat animals because ultimately there's a soul in that body. We're not just monkeys. We don't just eat bananas. Monkeys, they eat boga. And, they don't follow the regulative principles. But, we take the boga and offer it to Krishna. And, take his prasad. So, the devotee can become Krishna conscious despite what his occupation is. One may be, a state administrator, maybe a military general, maybe, a doctor, a lawyer, maybe, a construction worker, could be a, electrician like Sesha's electrician. Devotees have all kinds of occupations. My friend Tapamisha in New Orleans been involved in the film industry for 20 years. Another disciple of Prabhupada, Ananda, involved in the same industry. Very difficult right now. The only thing Ananda can do is make a few commercials here and there because the whole industry is, still closed down because of the pandemic. You can't be making movies. So devotees, they can have any occupation as long as we're Krishna conscious. But we have to be Krishna conscious and support this Krishna consciousness movement. To the best of our ability. Dr. Gopinath is, he's trying to do that. So anyway, I'm going, what time is it? See, it's already 8:15, so I'm like 7 minutes over, so we have to stick to our time. And that's the end of class. Any comments or questions before we depart? Okay, tomorrow's verse will be text number 34. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.